Greetings and salutations, friends. Let's talk a bit about Battlefield 5, shall we? After all of the controversy after the Whamensers in World War II and their bionic enhancements, has the open beta been able to put out some of the fires started by the retarded decisions of the design and marketing team? In my opinion, no. In fact, I think the open beta is doing its level best to fan the flames. Because at least previously, all of the controversy was somewhat political in nature. It was good old-fashioned controversial drama, and to many that is definitely second to good gameplay. But now that the open beta is out, and it is a bit of a buggy mess to put it mildly, I think that will have put off a lot more people. Now, of course, it is a beta, but considering the game was supposed to be released shortly thereafter, and even now it's going to be released in just a little over a month, I think it is fair to state that this is not so much a beta as it is a demo for the finished product. Not a whole lot is going to be fixed in the fairly short amount of time up until launch, and considering just how buggy the current product is, with countless UI bugs, interface problems, to the point where the interface simply stops functioning occasionally, or the HUD just disappears. The first time I played the game, it took me 40 minutes just to get in a squad of my friends, after which I swiftly lost control of my character, got stuck on the map screen, and had to restart the entire game. And just as a little bonus, it refuses to save any of my settings, so every time my HUD despawns or the interface ceases to respond to my commands, I have to Alt-Tab out, kill the game in the process manager, enter into it again, and then redo all of my graphical, audio, and control settings, since it refuses to actually goddamn remember them. All of this has made playing the beta an absolute pain. But at least, once you finally manage to load up the game and it's not installing multiplayer, yes, that was another bug I had, and you actually get into it, avoid all of the UI bugs, and maybe even get in a squad with your friends, at least these servers are fairly stable. I've yet to have the servers themselves die on me, at least when I can actually connect to the servers in general, that is. Now, of course, once again, it is a beta, but bear in mind, the game is coming out in a little over a month, and it already has been in beta for quite a while, and yet it is still in this state. To think that the game will be fully fixed or even all that much improved upon launch, I think is rather optimistic. But now that you've finally gotten into a server, how is the actual game, the gameplay, the all-important gunplay? It is, in my opinion, entirely satisfactory. It is fine. It did not wow me in any real sense. It didn't really grip me, and perhaps the biggest problem to me is how small it all felt. The moment-to-moment gunplay is entirely satisfactory, but everything around it is not. Vehicle combat feels slow and clunky and kind of boring. Even a mighty Tiger tank doesn't feel even like a tank. It feels like a Jeep. When you're running into an actual just parked civilian car on a map, and you hit it, the car doesn't crumple, it lifts the Tiger tank fucking up, and you have to bounce your way over it. When you hit a pothole, the Tiger tank bounces. When you fire the mighty 88mm gun, it's more like firing a low-velocity mortar, and the damn thing has an effective range of maybe 50-odd meters if you're bloody lucky. And the hilarious thing is, as much as they've nerfed the fuck out of tanks in killing infantry, they've nerfed infantry in killing tanks almost as much. Tanks can eat an endless stream of Panzerfaust, or tons of dynamite, and not really give a flying fucking shit. And by the same coin, a 105mm shell can land practically right next to an infantryman, and do little more than knock off perhaps half his health. You do more damage hitting him in the leg with a couple pistol rounds than hitting nearby him with a 100+mm high explosive grenade. And let us not even talk about the pathetic excuses for machine guns aboard these things. You can fire for a whole 2 seconds before the gun literally starts sputtering, slowing its rate of fire, and then overheating. I don't know what they constructed these things out of, but I'm assuming it's got something to do with tinfoil and scrap metal. Honestly, by far the funnest vehicle at the moment is just jumping in one of the fighter crafts and dogfighting. Which is kind of sad when you think about it. Hey, what's the most fun part of Battlefield 5? The incredibly arcadey air war. Oh, good. Oh, goody, good. It's just not Battlefield, you know? You run around a way too big map for what you're doing, and hip-firing against infantry that maybe, if you're lucky, you can pick out from the incredibly overly luminescent landscape that just blooms at you from every direction. It's not a Battlefield game anymore. It's far more like COD, frankly, and it's not supposed to be COD. DICE needs to stop competing with Call of Duty and realize that they've actually got their own fucking franchise called Battlefield, where you fight on a battlefield with tanks and aircrafts. And here's the worst part. I really adore the idea of being able to build fortifications on the battlefield, because now you have the perfect counter against it. You've got towable guns. I would love to see you be able to build literal sandbag bunkers to put heavy machine guns into them and make them more or less sniper-proofs. Make it something different from the run-and-gun gameplay. If you could build fortifications, that would force the enemy to respond, to bring up a tank, for example, to bring up the crocodile, which currently is somewhat ass because the flamethrower does barely any goddamn damage, or more deployable guns, not just packs. Give us heavy infantry guns like the German 150mm. Give us the American 75mm pack howitzer. Give us the Leichte Infanteriegeschütz, the Leg, a beautiful goddamn gun. Give us mortars. Give us entrenchments. Give us cool shit to fight on an actual battlefield with. And for God's sake, more vehicles. Having like one Kettenklad, an APC, a single tank, and maybe 2 aircraft on a map the size of Narvik is fucking pathetic. You could probably double that, and it would still feel a little bit light on the vehicles. Hell, that might actually be a reason to use the goddamn packs to counter enemy armor. And considering how relatively weak tanks and other vehicles are against infantry now, that would be perfect. The tanks would not be able to dominate the infantry battle, but they would be able to provide valuable support to the infantry, and it would give you an actual reason to use the towed guns. It would give you more reason for fucking team play. And most importantly of all, this is what Battlefield is supposed to be about. This is a battlefield game set in World War II. Give us World War II vehicles, give us World War II weapons, give us fortifications, give us cool stuff, instead of a handful of weapons, an even more pathetic number of tanks, and a couple of call-ins. And for fuck's sake, the V1 call-in. No. Give us artillery. Narvik literally has ships off the coast. Instead of doing something retarded and Fortnite-y as a goddamn V1 call-in that barely does anything, give us mortar barrages, give us off-map artillery, give us airstrikes, give us something thematic, not some kind of cartoonish doomsday weapon. And by the God Emperor's hairy ballsack, bigger matches. Why are we still playing 64-player games? Can anyone tell me why? Give us at least 100 players. God damn it. Modern server infrastructure, 120. Easy, come on. Give us something big. Make this an actually bigger battlefield instead of just what it is now, which is, honestly, it just feels like a half-assed World War II. No, that's not even right. It's not even a World War II game. I can't even call it a World War II skin, because there's virtually nothing about World War II in it. V1's falling from the sky, you're running around with Swiss and Chinese weapons. The Sturmgewehr is a basic assault gun. Are you kidding me? The Sturmgewehr should be at the absolute end of the assault tree, not the first gun you get. Are you insane? That is supposed to be something special. Hell, I would entirely understand if the Sturmgeschütz was literally a call-in from a supply crate. That's how powerful and how versatile it should be, and kind of honestly is. So there's that too. It's just, it shouldn't be there. And the goddamn customizations options. Oh, goddammit. Okay. Part of me understands the customization stuff. Okay, I get it. You want to customize your character, that's fine, but not in a World War II game. Come on. This isn't Axis versus Allies. It's 2 teams of slightly different looking hobos firing weapons at each other across the overly luminescent goddamn landscapes. You've got guys running around in beanies, in fighter pilots' uniforms. You've got Asian chicks in rain jackets. Nobody's wearing a goddamn uniform. The closest you get is the Germans, who at least wear helmets occasionally. God damn it. It's just, it has practically nothing to do with the Second World War. The Tiger is a flaccid cock of a creature that has a 50mm effective range. The Sturmtiger, a weapon that's supposed to be firing gargantuan anti-fortification rockets, fires like a bloody machine gun. You can get 2 shots out of the Sturmtiger in the time it takes you to fire a 75mm once. It is so goddamn dumb, and honestly, it stinks of design by committee. The whole gameplay stinks of focus testing. The whole idea of immersion, we are going to immerse you by every time you receive an ammo pack, having you hold it up to your goddamn face. We're going to immerse you by having you hold down a key to heal yourself, to hold down a key slowly to do anything. Oh, and the attrition system, bloody hell. Okay, they're already planning on changing this, thank bloody god, but starving your players out of ammo and med packs is not fun. It doesn't encourage cohesive team play, because most of the time you're going to be playing with complete random monkeys that haven't the faintest bloody clue what they're doing. They're not going to throw you med packs, they're not going to throw you ammo, so you have to, every time you spawn in, wander off to a spawn point to find yourself some more ammunition, so that you have got more than 2 bloody magazines until you're switching over to your pistol, which, by the way, might not be a bad thing. I've had more luck with the pistol than I've had with most of the main weapons in the game, so that's also a thing, I suppose. Anywho, let me try and wrap it up. So, even if you set aside all of the political nonsense, all of the Chinese Whamens running around Narvik with German sniper rifles, even if you take the fact that it's just not even attempting to be a World War II game, and you set all that aside, I still don't like it. The gunplay is fine, but nowhere near good enough to make me want to pay $60 for what is otherwise a kind of mediocre mesh experience. The vehicles feel terrible, the vehicle versus infantry combat feels boring, there's so much lack of depth and size. Every time I see a pack, I'm just disappointed to my very soul, like, alright, we could be using towed guns, we could be setting up firing bases and doing cool shit, and fighting on an actual battlefield, instead here I am fighting a subpar version of Call of Duty. And then, of course, there's all of the bugs, and the fact that the game gives me a literal headache because it is so very, very bright, and so much nonsense happening on the screen. Leaves are blowing, pamphlets are blowing, the sun is baking down on you, you can barely distinguish the enemy from the background, nobody's wearing uniforms, nobody is contrasting, and when your UI inevitably bugs out, there is practically no way to distinguish one side from the other, since, once again, nobody's actually wearing a bloody uniform. And that, of course, is the icing on the cake, the fact that your World War II shooter is just not a World War II shooter, which, whilst not being the necessarily decisive factor, sure as hell adds on a lot of shit to all of the other nonsense you're already expected to eat. All in all, I would suggest waiting quite a while, at the very least to see if the bugs clear up, and to see how they're going to support the game, because honestly, with the disappointing pre-order sales, with the generally meh-ish reactions from the audience, I would not at all be surprised if this turned into a proper good old-fashioned flop, and the game might simply end up being flat-out discontinued. I also have a lot of worries about their monetization idea, so the game at launch is going to have 35 guns, which when you take away the pistols and you divide them over the classes, then you've got the subclasses as well, you've got, what, maybe 5 to 7 guns per class, which for a Battlefield game is pathetic, and for a game set in World War II is even more pathetic. They're already dragging in Chinese and Swiss nonsense, they could have an absolute ton of guns, easy, and considering there's practically no attachments and the upgrade paths are actually locked in, so that if you want to go a different upgrade path, you've got to buy an entirely new gun, I feel like the game is going to become stagnant very quickly, and the developers must know that as well, and since they haven't mentioned anything about not selling guns, I am really suspicious that they're going to start selling armament packs, where they'll sell basically subclasses with access to new weapons and new weapons combinations, like a sniper, for example, that for some reason has access to a med pack, or a supporter that has access to assault rifles, stuff like that, which could very easily lead to a lot of purchasing in power. Not to mention, I also suspect they're going to start selling the in-game currency, since you need both in-game currency and experience to unlock stuff, and since they lock you into an upgrade path, forcing you to buy another weapon to do another upgrade path, which is about the slowest, dumbest way of upgrading a weapon I think I've ever seen, it seems primed for exploitation. So once again, I would probably recommend holding off, at the very least until the initial reviews comes out, and you get reports from people how it's changed, if it's changed, at the very least if they fixed some of the more egregious bugs, and how the servers are holding up. Not to mention, maybe wait also until you get a peek at their future monetization plans. Honestly, for myself, I'd actually really looked forward to this game when I first heard it was in development, because I would have loved to play a good Battlefield game in World War II. Absolutely. Abso-goddamn-lutely, I want that. With this, honestly, at the very least I was planning to get a copy to review it, but I don't know if I can be fucking bothered, because I just didn't find it fun at all, and it wouldn't be much of a review if the only thing I did was the one thing I did find fun, which would be flying around in aircraft. Battlefield 5 review. 100% aerial combat all the time. Nothing but. Sounds somewhat terrible. I'll have to wait and see, but for now, definitely my recommendation is give it a good solid week, I'd say, at least, to get the reports out. Possibly even a month, maybe. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if even Origin put out a sale fairly soon after release on this one, so bear that in mind. Anyways, I have been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.